Good day. This is Dimitri Lascaris coming to you from Montreal, Canada for Reason to Resist on August 25th, 2026. Today, we're very pleased to be joined for the first time on Reason to Resist by Syed Haider Raza Mehdi. How are you doing today, Haider?
Very well. Good morning, Dimitri. Thank you for having me.
So for those who are not familiar with Haider, he served for 7 years as a commissioned officer in the military of Pakistan. And in 2023, many years after he left the military and resettled in Canada, the Pakistan Army court-martialed him in absentia for, quote, inciting sedition and acting against the interests of the state, close quote, and I understand sentenced you to life in prison. All of this happened in the aftermath of the overthrow of Pakistan's Prime Minister Imran Khan in May 2023. And today, Haider is the host of a widely followed YouTube program, Haider Mehdi's Perspectives. Thank you very much again for joining us, Haider.
An honor and a pleasure, Dimitri. Thank you so much for having me.
So today, I want to begin by talking with you about the health condition of the imprisoned Prime Minister Imran Khan. There was a contempt petition, I understand, filed recently with a court in Pakistan in relation to the condition of his health and assuring that he received proper medical care. The court ordered that he be treated in what appears to be a relatively high-quality private facility. And after a brief visit, he was spirited off to a public institution where apparently he did not receive adequate health care. So could you begin by telling us about what you understand the health condition of the Prime Minister to be?
Thank you, Dimitri. Dimitri, while no one can say for sure what his actual condition is, because he hasn't been put through the battery of tests that his family has been requesting and been asked for in the petition, which actually said that he should be taken to this very high-end private facility called the International Hospital in Islamabad. He should be examined by a medical board consisting 6 specialists, including heart, blood, etc. And then he would have access to his family, who he hasn't met in 9 months in solitary. I'm just going to address that subsequently. And then the medical board has to come back and give this court report, which is a bench of the Supreme Court, the highest court in the country, to come back and give them a report in September. So the understanding was that Imran would probably be there in the hospital for 4 weeks going through a battery of tests. Unfortunately, that didn't happen. They took him to a government hospital, just took his blood pressure, put an eye injection because he's lost, as they say, 85% of his vision in the right eye. They keep saying his sisters now say it is improving. He has probably told them it's improving. So that's what we know of his health. The report that was submitted by a government board of medical doctors paints a concerning picture that he's been in solitary confinement for 9 months. He's suffering from acute stress and anxiety. His blood pressure is much higher than a person of his physical health is. And there is a concern about something to do with his coronary, and there was an advisory to have also go through a coronary angiography. So that's the factual position. Just today, a little while ago, a few hours ago, his sons came on in the UK, Qasim and the other gentleman, Suleiman, and they've actually said that they believe that if their father remains in confinement, which is illegal and unconstitutional, he may actually not come out alive. So that is the first very serious indication we've received from a close family member, his son, that they actually fear for his life now. On the other hand, one of his sisters, Noreen, has met him today, which is Tuesday in Pakistan, as part of the weekly routine visits that he was supposed to get from family, which didn't take place. But she's met him. The Supreme Court has put a bar on them not to say anything. They've also committed in writing to the military, which controls the government, to Asim Munir, that they will not come out and make any public statements either about his health or his political position. But what we do know from the whispers that come out, and eventually they do, that Imran is extremely angry, very upset at what they're doing, has denied any and all form of any deals with the government which would allow him to go out and get medical help. So that's the situation as it stands today about himself. We're all concerned. He's 74 years old. He's been in solitary. He said no one meet. Last time when he was spirited to the government hospital 5 days ago, and his sister was there, Dr. Uzma, which is his second sister. He's got three: it's Alima, Noreen, Uzma, and there's one, Rubina, who's in the UK. He told Uzma what month is it. He didn't even know what month it was. That was the tragedy that is befalling this man. Yes, Dimitri.
Mm-hmm. Well, just for our audience's awareness, we actually interviewed the sister of Imran Khan a few months ago, Alima Khan, who was in Pakistan at the time. You can watch that interview if you're interested in knowing more about the condition of the prime minister. And I just want to return to the failure to comply with this court order. As you saw, I just put up a moment ago a clip from, or a screenshot of an article in Al Jazeera published yesterday, which said that a contempt petition has been filed. According to court documents, whatever other sources of information you have, Haider, whom do you believe to be responsible for the violation of this court order?
Asim Munir. I am unequivocally. There have been a lot of mud and fog created around it, saying, "Oh, Asim Munir and the military people, the generals, wanted this to happen," but the civilian government, headed by Shehbaz Sharif and the Pakistan Muslim League, Nawaz, and I'm going to address this as well on the Tehran visit, but they actually thwarted it. It's the most wonderful red herring that one can ever think of. Nothing happens in Pakistan without the explicit direction, orders, instructions of this one man, Asim Munir, who has usurped power completely unconstitutionally, illegally. He's been appointed by an illegally usurped civilian Prime Minister, Shehbaz Sharif. So his standing currently under all forms of rule of law and constitution is illegal. Having said that, here is what the play was, and this is a play that I have garnered from my sources within the military and from what's happening. Asim Munir fears three things. He fears the American taking support away from him, which essentially means Trump. He fears his own military, because he knows that is the only institution right now that can remove him from power. And the third thing, obviously, he fears is the people, and I call it the Awam, so call him the three A's. He fears America, he fears the army, and he fears the Awam. So what was his play? His play was that because he has used force so much over the last 3 years, that this is his fourth year in illegal power, that isn't working. And there have been very serious concerns shared with him from within the military, which is predominantly vast majority in favor of Imran Khan and a free Pakistan, but feared, don't have the courage to move and remove this guy. So his play was this: okay, let's bring the temperature down. Let's give this morsel to the people and to the army. Oh, I'm actually interested in giving Imran access to healthcare, access to his family, bring the temperature down. And when that happens, then make a play and say, "Oh, I was doing it, but look, the civilians." Let the entire flack and the responsibility and the anger fall on the civilian politicians headed by Nawaz Sharif. Now, Nawaz Sharif's younger brother, Shehbaz Sharif, is actually the prime minister. The interior minister, who controls all the rangers, the police, the FIA, all the other law enforcement enforcement agencies who actually didn't allow him to go to Shiv Hospital, but spirited him to this government hospital, all take direct orders from Mohsin Naqvi, who is a very close relative of Asim Munir, who was appointed interior minister for the express purpose that Asim Munir would then have control over all the non-military law enforcement apparatus that exists in Pakistan. So people, I keep telling people, you got to understand the big player at the top to understand the bottom player at the bottom at what's going on. So the second factor that he fears in the army, it was actually to placate also people from within the army. The second piece associated with what he has done is he's asked for $10 billion from the United States to shore up their foreign exchange reserves. Pakistan's economy is completely torn to shreds. Inflation is sky high. People are really angry. They hate the army. Just yesterday, there was a lieutenant colonel from the army who was manhandled at a university campus just in the outskirts of Islamabad for whatever reasons. I mean, I'm not going to go into the reason. The fact that students actually held the lieutenant colonel by the scruff of his neck, tore his uniform. The guy had to take out his service revolver, fire shots in the air to save himself. His wife was there. But that's another story. What I'm saying is, so Asim Munir has to placate Trump well. And when Trump he said, you want their $10 billion? Well, here's what you go. You go to Tehran and you tell them to open the Strait of Hormuz. And if you can get them to open the Strait of Hormuz, you get your $10 billion. That's exactly what he did yesterday. He went on a day-long with his Minister of Interior, Mohsin Naqvi, again, the same guy, who's his right-hand man and a close relative. He goes there. He meets Pezeshkian, he meets the IRGC, he meets the army people, he meets Agarshi, and I think he met a representative of, and he literally gave them marching orders. He said, this is what Trump has said. You're equally responsible for the problems that are happening. You guys are telling the Houthis and the proxy, through your proxies, which is the American, to start attacking the shipping through the Red Sea. You must stop that, otherwise you're going to be bombed to oblivion. So now Asim Munir's play from being a mediator has now become a messenger forward. And for him, the two reasons is Trump's support to remain his favorite field marshal, as he is so proud to have, and to get the $10 billion that they've asked for. So that's how that play is playing out.
Right. And just for clarity's sake, Asim Munir is the chief of the Pakistan military. I may have omitted to clarify that when I asked you the question, but I want to make sure people understand that.
And I want to just add one thing to this chief of the military. So Asim Munir, when he was appointed lieutenant general, he was appointed lieutenant general. People need to understand, maybe your audience would understand how this play happens in Pakistan. Asim Munir was appointed a lieutenant general in September 2018 by then Army Chief Bajwa. The tenure for a lieutenant general is 4 years. This guy was supposed to retire in September 2022. His nickname in the army, by the way, is Deceiver. It was given to him when he was a major, that he's a great deceiver. What he did was he took his wife and daughter and he went outside Pakistan and told Bajwa that my daughter, he has a special child, one of the daughters is a special child, and my wife are sick, I want to take them out for treatment. He stayed overseas till December the 7th. He comes back to Pakistan on December the 7th. By that time, he's been appointed DG ISI. So he takes over the position of DG ISI. It was December 5th. He takes over that position December 5th. So officially now his tenure for Lieutenant General actually ends in December 2022, 5 days or 8 days after the incumbent army chief whose tenure. So he had calculated in his mind even then that he needed to play. The other generals objected to General Bajwa and said, "This guy is, literally, he's literally played the system to get himself first in line to be on the panel that goes to the prime minister to be promoted army chief." Bajwa then changed his order of appointment from the 5th of December and put it to 5th of December to 25th November, 2 days before the incumbent army chief was supposed to resign, which means that he would no longer be in play for a new appointment. So effectively, when he was appointed, he had actually retired. After that, when the elections were stolen and the new government, which is currently in place, was installed, and Imran had won 2/3 of the majority, this new government then gives him extraordinary powers in parliament through parliamentary constitutional amendments, and then a defense act passed just a few weeks ago called the 2026 Act. This gives him supreme power over all the three services, all their promotions, transfers. He can reduce 3 stars in their service. He's got total power. The only power that he doesn't have is that of the president of Pakistan, which is what he wants. I mean, now when he went to meet the president of Iran, the Minister of Interior, who's actually senior to him in the hierarchy protocol, which is Mohsen Naqvi, is sitting on the side as an aide, and Field Marshal Asim Munir, illegal, unconstitutional head of the army, is sitting next to Pezeshkian as a president of Pakistan. It's not that, the protocol, Dimitri, when the president meets, if a person is a lower ranking government official from another country, that person does not sit alongside the president and be treated as an equal. So I don't know why the Iranians did that. The Iranians sent a very wrong message and saying that we now treat him as the equivalent of a president, which means that de facto they've accepted him as a president, and this guy is going to move forward. He wants to bring about a lot of change. I just want to make one statement before you go on to the next question. There is intense hatred for the Pakistan army amongst the average Pakistani. The only thing that's holding people in Pakistan back is the fear of guns, bullets, tortures, incarcerations, beatings, killings, mass murder, genocide. That's the only thing. It's 250 million people. 67% of its population is under 30. It is a powder keg. The day that wall of fear, I dread to say that, the day that wall of fear is broken or people overcome it, it is going to be a massacre. It's going to be a level of anarchy. Forget revolution. It's just going to be a massacre of biblical proportions.
Mm. Yesterday, as we've just discussed, Munir goes to Tehran. It seems quite clear that he had a conversation with Trump just before he left. And on this very day, Scott Bessent, the U.S. Treasury Secretary, comes out with this dramatic and, quite frankly, utterly criminal announcement that it's economic D-Day for Iran, and they are going to reduce the economy to subsistence level and asphyxiate it. These are the words that he used. Here is some of what Bessent had to say yesterday, and for much of his speech, he appeared to be almost hyperventilating.
Every country, every entity should know that they should be prepared to face U.S. sanctions. Our great armed forces have laid the groundwork for achieving the President's objective of preventing Iran from ever obtaining nuclear weapons. They have shown America's resolve to finally end this threat. Iran now faces a very clear choice with only two paths before them: complete global isolation and a subsistence economy, or a path back to normalcy with an opportunity to rejoin the global economy. Today, we are launching Operation Economic Outcast to foreclose every other option available to the Iranian regime. Treasury has mapped every node, every facilitator, and every network that Iran has used to smuggle oil and evade sanctions. Beginning today, the actions of Treasury and other agencies will tighten the noose and block every potential source of revenue that funds the IRGC and the evil Iranian regime. But we do not have infinite patience here. No one is above this. We are going to hold everyone accountable, and this is economic asphyxiation of this regime. And Jennifer, as I said, no one should test our resolve.
So, Haider, you just heard what this child-murdering psychopathic war criminal had to say about destroying the economy of a country whose people he claims to want to save from tyranny. Pakistan and Iran have a substantial border. My understanding is that there is significant trade between the two countries. This man was quite clear, at least if you take what he's saying at face value and you don't think he's bluffing, he's going to hold his government, his regime is going to hold everyone accountable who gives any kind of an economic lifeline to Iran. So my question to you is, what do you think Pakistan is going to do now? Is it actually going to cut off all commerce with Iran? Or do you think it's going to try to find a way to wiggle out of this?
So, great question. I think Trump is already aware that Munir has been trying to play him and play both sides. He's telling Iran, I'm your friend. He's telling the US, I'm your friend. And I think that is over. This particular trip to Iran was, as I said earlier, was marching orders to Asim and saying, either you're with us, it's like the Bush telling Musharraf, either you're with us or not, or we're going to bomb you to the Stone Ages. It's the equivalent of that Trump has done to Asim Munir. So Asim Munir went and issued the marching orders. What will Asim do? Because it's, when you say Pakistan, I really say Asim, because it is not Pakistan. The Pakistani people and the Pakistani armed forces, by and large, even though they're cowardly, do not support what Asim is doing. This for his own survival. So what will Asim do? He will do what I've been saying since this conflict started. I said, I am seeing a time when Pakistani airspace and Pakistani land will be accessible to the Americans if and when they ever want to launch a military operation on land, air, and sea against Iran. I have no doubts that if Asim Munir is still the army chief and still the major, unconstitutional strongman of Pakistan, that is what's going to happen. I wouldn't be surprised if even today a lot of intelligence from within the borders is being shared with the Americans. A large part of Balochistan is up in arms and there's an insurgency. But the interesting thing is that insurgency never targets an American interest or a European interest. The only foreign interests they target are the Chinese. So it's a big question that everyone's been asking. So Asim Munir will do everything possible to convince Trump that I do not have any economic ties. And listen, I'm going to suffer economically if we break off ties. And that's why the 10 billion ask. So he's trying to play that 10 billion ask. I think he's up against a negotiator who will take the pants off Asim Munir, because if Asim Munir is trying to do this negotiating game with Trump. But on the other hand, there is a 2 billion illegal diesel and petroleum smuggling between Iran and Pakistan. So Asim Munir can just turn around and say, hey, listen, I can't stop that. All right. So that's an illegal route. By the way, it's facilitated by the military, by the Army Rangers, by the FC, and they make hundreds of millions of dollars off this smuggling route where that happens between Iran and Pakistan. It's been going on, by the way, it's been going on for decades. It's nothing new. It's actually dramatically increased since Imran went over. Imran tried very hard to stop it. Bajwa kept humming and hawing. I know personally, Imran had told me he was desperately trying to stop this trade and open trade with Iran. You know, I know this was not the question, but Dimitri, people need to understand why Imran was removed. Imran was removed because Imran was truly a patriot. You know, he wanted the best for Pakistan. He was not against the US. He wasn't against Israel, but he's against Zionism. He was against what was happening in Gaza. He was against what is being done to the Palestinians. He's voiced it publicly. He was a great upholder of the rights of Muslims across the world, and is he was against this Islamophobia, and he raised it at the United Nations. He was not willing to allow the US to play the game that it always does by saying, you do this for us. And he said, no, we're not going to get into anybody's wars. We've fought enough wars for these people. I want to have a equitable relationship between China and. So literally everyone in the world ganged up against him. The Gulf states didn't want him because his brand of very principled, social justice-based Islam is totally against what's happening in Saudi Arabia or Kuwait or Qatar or all these UAE, family fiefdoms who are leeching off of the land, and so they don't want him because they felt he was a threat, and if he continued for a long time, people in their own countries would ask for the same kind of vision for social justice that Imran was saying. So Imran really lined up a whole list of very, very powerful enemies, starting from the American establishment to the Zionist establishment to the so-called Muslim establishment funded by the Gulf countries and the military establishment within his own country, which said, my God, if this guy stays on, we're cooked. So that is the big picture. That is the big play. So none of these guys want this guy to come out. And none of these guys want a free, independent Pakistan. Dimitri, look at us as Pakistanis. I'm a Canadian and a Pakistani. I have both passports, even though they've confiscated and cancelled my Pakistani passport. And, we're 250 million people. We're nuclear armed. We got a highly skilled workforce. We've got massive natural resources. We're a country that could be a first world country if we were allowed to operate. Who in their wildest nightmares would allow a powerful Muslim country, nuclear armed, economically strong, democratically strong, great workforce, skilled, healthy, educated? It's a nightmare for the Zionists. It's a nightmare for the military establishment and in Pakistan. It's a nightmare for the US establishment because that's not the way they operate.
Indeed. Now, I just want to put up on the screen here, Haider, a map so people can see the very interesting geopolitical circumstances in which Pakistan finds itself. Mm-hmm. It could be effectively a land bridge between China and Iran. It borders to the east on China and to the west on Iran. And my understanding is that, in fact, there's a significant amount of goods that are being shipped via rail and perhaps also by truck across Pakistan from Iran to China and vice versa. Also, it's my understanding that Pakistan's military depends significantly on Chinese weaponry, Chinese fighter jets, Chinese missiles, and perhaps even air defense systems, if not other things.
Yes.
And so there's this interesting, shall we say, schizophrenia in Pakistan's foreign policy, because on the one hand, the current regime there is extraordinarily deferential to the United States. On the other hand, it has significant relations with China, and including of a military nature, and could be, as I said, a land bridge between China and Iran that would enable Iran to at least mitigate considerably the impacts of this inhumane and criminal sanctions regime that the United States is inflicting upon the Iranian people. So what is the reality here of Pakistan's current foreign policy? Is it an ally of China? Is it an ally of the United States? Is it a bit of both? How is it trying to balance out these competing agendas?
Great question, Dimitri. So first, again, when you say Pakistan, I don't want the viewers to understand that this is Pakistan's foreign policy. It isn't. It is Asim Munir's position vis-a-vis the US, vis-a-vis Iran, vis-a-vis China. The reality is exactly what you said. Close to more than 65% of our military needs are serviced by China. We have a joint project with them on the GF-17 Thunder aircraft. Our entire air defense system is now predominantly Pakistan, which was used against the Indians. And, we downed 6-7 of their planes. It was considered a big win by us. It was just, the weaponry was far superior to what they had, and we shot them down. And we have the CPEC. China's invested close to $60 billion in what was the China-Pakistan economic corridor coming in from China all the way down to Gwadar. And, can you imagine a west to east link coming in from Iran, connecting CPEC, going up to China, goods, and then goods coming down from China and going westwards into Iran? It's a perfect place. Actually, China wanted an east-west corridor connecting India as well. So, there's a huge economic play there that could be beneficial to so many other regions, countries, including Afghanistan. So how is Asim going to play it? And that's why I'm saying, if Asim thinks he can hoodwink Trump, because Trump is a transactional guy, he wants something, he's like a kid in a candy store. He needs that little candy. Right now, the candy that he needs is opening the Strait of Hormuz. That's the candy he needs, so he can then go and say, oh, the strait is open, war is over, we won. Scott Bessent, what he said, Dimitri, I don't know how they're going to implement it. Okay, so maybe they can force Pakistan to stop everything, and Pakistan can say, hey, it's illegal, we're trying, there's an unrest in Balochistan, we can't stop it here and there. I don't know how Asim is going to play that with Trump to convince him that I'm with you. Your sanctions, we're putting in place your sanctions. We're not allowing Iran to do any economic activity, use any of Pakistan's corridors, trains, networks, road networks. We're with you. And I will get you the Strait of Hormuz open. Don't do anything. If Trump thinks that Asim will not be able to deliver what he's promising, the Americans do what they've always done. They wink at another general. So when the Americans wanted Musharraf out, they winked at Kiani, who was his vice chief. So Kiani comes in saying, hey, sir, I guess you need to go. I think they're just going to, and that is what he's really, really scared of. And operationally, one can see that great sense of insecurity that it took him 8 months to appoint a 4-star general to what was called the National Command Authority, which is responsible for the nuclear arsenal of Pakistan. And he had to move the one lieutenant general, 3-star, who he trusted amongst the 28 that he has, which was Ahmed Raza. His name is Ahmed Raza. And he moved him to that 4-star. He still has another appointment to fulfill after the 27th Amendment, which is the Vice Chief of the Army Staff or a Deputy Chief, because now he's the CDF, the Chief of Defense Forces. He looks after all the 3 services, the Air Force, the Army, and the Navy. So he has to have an operational head within the Army. He hasn't appointed that. And the most significant evidence of his insecurity stemming from the fear that his own military may remove him is that he hasn't filled the chief of the general staff's post even today. It's, I think, 27 days. Dimitri, this is like trying to drive a car without petrol or diesel or fuel. The CGS is the most significant appointment in the Pakistan Army, even more significant than the Army Chief, because that is the operational headquarters of the Army. All military orders emanate from the office of the Chief of the General Staff. Everything. It's a huge headquarters with hundreds of officers. They tell which division, which corps moves there. In war, that's the person through whose headquarters issues the order. Can you imagine that this army does not have this one most critical lieutenant general? And you know the answer is he can't trust any of the other. He's got 9 corps commanders who are 3 stars. He can't trust them, or he doesn't trust. So he's waiting for some of them to retire next month, which is October. Or sorry, in October, and then he's probably going to get a really junior major general, promote him to lieutenant general. So I'm trying to give this big picture of what's happening in Pakistan vis-a-vis Asim Munir, because nothing in Pakistan is happening without what he wants done. And if he is able, again, Dimitri, if he is able to convince Trump that he's still his favorite field marshal, which is he will be able to deliver the goodies that that Trump wants, so he can stay and he can then tell his general, listen, Trump is still with me. I'm still the favorite field marshal. Don't remove me. If you remove me, Trump is going to play havoc with Pakistan. I'm your best bet for your survival, your jobs, your future. Stick by me. It is that's why we're on a tightrope. You know, the economy is shattered. There's absolutely no business going on. People are angry, they're hated. There's an insurgency in KP, there's an insurgency in Balochistan. Rawalakot and Azad Kashmir, people have said if the Rangers come, we're going to fire at them. I mean, you know, nothing is going right for this guy. Nothing. Yeah. The only thing that he has, yeah.
I want to share some information with our audience, which really sort of drives home the point you're making here. There were, and this is just one aspect of Pakistan's foreign policy, but a very, very important one at this moment. There was a poll done in Pakistan by I'm sorry, this is the wrong image. I don't know why that's coming up. Here we are. By Geopoll, I believe it was in April of this year. And I'm going to focus on 2 questions in that poll. The first question is, who is to blame for the conflict with Iran? And Israel was the overwhelming answer of the Pakistani respondents. 63% said it was Israel's fault. 21% said it was the United States, and only 5% said it was Iran. And another 5% didn't have a view. So it is quite clear that the people of Pakistan blame the United States and Israel overwhelmingly for this war, which is very damaging, I would imagine, for Pakistan because of its reliance on oil and gas from the Persian Gulf. Now, another poll, the same poll, asked this question as well. To which party does your sympathies tilt? And 82% said Iran, 3% said Israel, and 12% said neither. What I found most interesting about this particular question and the response to it, Haider, was, you know, as we've covered on this program, Pakistan has a significant Shia population, but it constitutes, I understand, less than 20% of the population.
Correct.
And when on the odd occasion when we talk in the West about the attitude of Pakistanis towards this war, the emphasis is put on the Shia population of Pakistan as being supportive of Iran or sympathetic to Iran. But this is clearly not a view that is confined to the Shia population of Pakistan. There's obviously the vast majority of Sunni Muslims in the country are also sympathetic in this conflict to Iran. And so my question to you is, and I think you've already answered it, but it seems to me that when there is this level of sympathy for Iran and anger towards Israel and the United States, that this has to impose some constraints on the government's room for maneuver, no matter how anti-democratic it may be. At the end of the day, as you said, the country is, it's walking a tightrope right now. People are enraged. They're extremely angry with the army. So, I mean, do you agree that this level of hostility towards Israel and sympathy towards Iran does impose limits on what Munir can do in terms of following the dictates of Washington?
So, Dimitri, it's actually a very simple answer. Munir is fighting for his physical survival, literally. Knows that if he goes, the chances that he will be tried under Article 6 for treason, which is in our constitution, and the maximum sentence for that is death, he is likely going to get that. I mean, that is clear to a lot of people. This country has actually gone through a metamorphosis over the last 4 years. It's interesting you showed this poll. There have been other polls done by non-Pakistani agencies in the world with US. And one of the polls, and I don't recall I think maybe it was a Republican poll, said, what is the sentiment for pro or anti-Israel around the world? The country which had the highest anti-Israel sentiment was Pakistan, something like 94%. And this is hardly 6-8 months old. So Pakistanis hate Israel. I mean, and I have to say that that's what the league is. The other thing was Sunni Muslims, this sectarian divide between the Shia and the Sunni Muslims based on theocracy actually acquired very significant, deep-rooted divisions when the Russian invasion of Afghanistan happened. And this was funded by the Saudis, who wanted to impose their very obscurantist, very non-exclusivist brand of hardcore militant Islam, which they don't want in their own country, but they exported it outside to every other country in the world, including Pakistan. Hundreds of billions of dollars were poured into this across the world and in Pakistan. And Zia, this so-called Islamist, guy, was extremely obscurantist. The Sunni population in Pakistan, which before this happened, was benign. And the vast majority of them belonged to what was called the Barelvi sect, the people who kind of were very Sufi oriented and had a gentler view towards the Shia Islam. After this, the Barelvi majority started converting into what was called the Wahhabi majority, the Saudi brand of Islam. So there was a lot of anti-Iran sentiment in Pakistan, by the way, which had developed because, these are kafirs, they're infidels, they're not Muslims. My own brother-in-law was assassinated because he was a Shia. I left Pakistan in 1998 because my father felt threatened that we would be killed because I come from a Shia family, even though I have very liberal views on, and I have a different perspective on the Shia theology and the Sunni theology. But anyway, that's not the question here. But what has happened in less than a year, and actually it started with the Gaza genocide. When the Gaza genocide happened, and people saw what the Gulf countries were doing and what Saudi Arabia was doing, and how Iran was fighting back, and the Hezbollah and Hamas and all these so-called Iranian proxies, the move, a very gentle, soft opening of the hearts and minds in Pakistan happened towards Iran. When the war actually started with the US and Israel, there's a complete sea change in how the people in Pakistan, the majority Sunnis, now started to view Iran. They started to view Iran not just as someone who's standing up to a bully, actually started saying it is their belief system and their acceptance of sacrifice and their courage that has given them this resolve to fight a superpower. So whether you agree with that or not is another issue. But the fact that many Pakistanis, the vast majority of the Pakistanis, attribute Iran's resolve to fight the Israelis, the Zionists, and the American establishment to their faith has actually brought even the theocratical, if that's the correct word, closer together. So what you see in that poll is not just a political manifestation of a change in the mindset, actually also seeing a faith-based religious manifestation of change, saying, no man, these guys have got something right. So it's a very interesting phenomena that you've actually described, and thank you for that question.
So the last thing I want to talk to you about is a bit of I have a bee in my bonnet, shall we say, about this thing. It's called the Mecca Defence Pact, as I'm sure you know. Haider, this thing was slapped together hurriedly, apparently on August, I don't know, 2 weeks ago or something. Yeah, so Shehbaz Sharif, who disgraced himself at Sharm el-Sheikh last year when he gave Donald Trump a tongue bath and said how much Donald Trump deserves the Peace Prize as he was helping Israel to carry out a genocide in Gaza. He came together with this sadistic dictator bin Salman, and there's Erdogan, and they announced with great fanfare that they have now they have a mutual defense pact. And they say, and they put out a joint statement, that it's basically an equivalent of Article 5 of NATO. An attack on one is an attack on all. Okay. Now, I'm going to come back to you in a moment about what this thing is really designed to do. But in the last 3 days, well, let me just say, people who watch my program will know that I have said and taken the position that this thing, if it's targeting anybody, it's Iran. It is not targeting Israel. I find it absurd, the idea that these three vassals of Washington are going to stand up to Israel. And then these reports emerged in the last couple of days that Iran had received an invitation to join the Mecca Defense Pact, which I found astonishing. I even saw some reports yesterday on the alternative media that Iran had accepted the invitation, that it was going to become a member. And all of that was effectively rebutted when yesterday the foreign ministry of Iran denied that it had even received a formal invitation to join it. Certainly didn't say anything about having accepted any such invitation. And what the spokesperson of the Iranian foreign ministry said yesterday, this is Ismail Bagay, whom I had the privilege to meet in Iran a couple of months ago. He said, "We have not received a formal invitation, but proposals have been raised for dialogue with these countries on matters related to collective security in the region." That sounds to me stuff that goes on there are between Iran and other powers in the region about collective security, but quite clearly, unless he's being dishonest, the spokesperson of the foreign ministry, Iran has not been invited into the Mecca Defense Pact. Now, one other thing I want to say before I ask you my question is, since this pact was announced, Ansar Allah has repeatedly attacked Saudi Arabia, and with perfectly good justifications. After all, Saudi Arabia is suffocating the country with a criminal blockade and has been doing so for more than a decade. And yet, as far as I know, Pakistan and Turkey have not come to the aid of Saudi Arabia since this thing was entered into. So with that long-winded sort of precursor to my question, what do you think this Mecca Defense Pact is actually designed to do? And do you believe that one day in our lifetimes, Iran is going to become a member?
So the answer to the second question is perhaps when the circumstances in the Gulf changes, not with these vassals that you see. So I have a very clear position on this, and I've stated it publicly. I've said it in my program. I've stated it on social media. So there were several reasons. Trump, I think the U.S. wants to provide a candy to ISIM and to Erdogan to build up their internal political base. Erdogan, especially because Erdogan's come under a lot of fire for supporting Israel, for continuing to supply oil to them. The height of the oil, the pipeline that comes and goes through them and onto the port and then to Haifa. And Asim Munir getting a lot of flack for the position that he had taken in Pakistan. I mean, you couldn't even demonstrate with the Palestinian flag. So it sounded nice, yeah, all coming together, defense of Mecca, and to give the Muslim population that these two leaders, Turkey being this big country with a big army, Pakistan, big country, big army, giving them this, what I'd call the religious card, play the religious card. Okay, these two countries, Muslim countries, have come to defend the holy sites of Mecca and Medina, and calling it the Mecca Defence Act, not the Riyadh or the Jeddah or the Saudi, Mecca. That is a great play with the words to play on the sentiments of the Muslim. It was Trump at his best, Trumpian best, doing complete BS. Completely, we won the war 28 times. That was one. It was actually against two people, and you identified the second one later. It was against Ansarullah and against Iran. But we have, the Pakistan already has a division or two divisions already there in the south. So they man that border. The Saudis are scared that if the Yemenis on their motorcycles, storm that border, come in, they're not going to stop. So they hope the Pakistani two divisions are going to stop them. We've got tanks there. We've got artillery. We've got infantry units. We've got air defense over there. We've also stationed a couple of squadrons of JF-17. So essentially, if anything, when we hear of a Saudi Air Force jet bombing Yemen, the Ansarullah, you can bet your last dollar that it's a Pakistani JF-17 Thunder manned by a Pakistani pilot who's doing it, not the Saudis. So that kind of probably assistance is taking place, but that was always there. It didn't have to be the Mecca pact. The first time we had a pact with them was before Zia took over. Then then there was a Zia thing, and then there was a Musharraf thing, and then there was a later thing. None of these pacts are public. We don't even know who signed what. What does Pakistan get in return for that? Because they were all done by military dictators. Iran has actually taken a very principled position. That's the correct position. He says, if you want security for this region, get rid of the Americans, and we collectively can safeguard the security of this region. If you're willing to talk on those grounds, absolutely. And I think that is when I said it will happen when the ground reality and the real politics of the Gulf says, all right, we don't want the Americans. We need to look after our own collective security. Pakistan is free, independent, democratic. I don't know about Turkey. Don't have much insight there, what's going on there. But Erdogan is probably the slickest, smoothest con man I've seen in many years. I mean, he still got his Muslim and Islamic based thinking that he's the next whoever Ottoman thing. But in Pakistan, the reality is very different. Pakistanis are not accepting of the US hegemony. Pakistanis are not accepting of the military hegemony. Pakistan are not accepting of the status that the current state there is. So we have just two ways. Either we come out on the streets, overthrow this illegal, unconstitutional regime, and start the very, very difficult journey, because they've really, really destroyed every semblance of state institutional authority framework that could exist in Pakistan. There is nothing. They're just people wearing uniforms, sitting in government chairs, but there is no structure. It's a very difficult task for Pakistan. I don't even know if we can actually get over this. And the other option is very obvious, like you said, Dimitri. I mean, there is a natural implosion that will happen because the system becomes so weak, the economy becomes so weak, the challenges to the poor become so dire. Criminality increases, lawlessness increases, anarchy increases, and suddenly the dam bursts, and maybe that's what the Israel and the Americans want. A completely weak, banged up Pakistan, and then they'll come up and say, okay, since you can't look after your nuclear weapons, we'll take them. That's what the play is, right?
Yeah.
Stop China, take the nuclear weapons away from Pakistan, destroy Iran. That's the play. It's such a simple play. People keep these things in mind about what the US and the Zionist lobbies want. This is it in this region. Keep the money of the Gulf in our pockets, stop China, its economic juggernaut, take away the nuclear weapon. These idiots will cause us a problem tomorrow if still have there, and make sure Iran is not a thorn in our side. That's it. That's the play.
Right. Well, I don't think we talk enough about Pakistan, Haider. It's a very important country, and at this particular time, what happens there is going to have major impacts on the trajectory of this war. It's a great pleasure talking to you today, and I hope we can continue the conversation in the future.
Dimitri, thank you, man. Great talking to you as well.
And we're signing off today on August 25th, 2026.